Hey guys, what's going on? RJ coming back at you with another King of Fighters 98 Ultimate Match Online video. And today I want to talk about Ash. I want to do a character introduction for Ash. We got his second limited draw up right now. So maybe you're wondering what's going on with Ash, stuff like that. I wanna tell you all about this really cool dude. So first of all, I need to just deactivate this stuff so we get his proper skills right. So Ash is a DPS EPI 15 fighter. He excels in damage. He does good damage, and his crit power is pretty good. When he crits, it's all right. It isn't like Ness, Kyo, or K level crit power, but it's decent. The rest of his stats are kind of, you know, they're okay, but I mean, he does damage. You know, his feature is continuous explosive attacks, which I can tell you from using him, he doesn't let you down with that, you know. Moving into his fates, we got the best actor with Ash, Kyo, Ness, and K. So a couple of bosses, but yeah, K you can get for free now. They added him into the one shop on Global. But Ness, Kyo there, if you don't have him, you know, you might want to get him if you're getting Ash, because I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Ness Q is a gate partner for him that's needed as well. And then we move down to Spin Jump. It has Ash, Hydran, Todo Kasumi, Geese, and Shion. Shion isn't even available right now, so that isn't completable. And 5-colored flame involves Ash, Orochi Chris, Crazy Yori, and Saki. Again, Saki is not released yet, and Saki and Shion will not be around for a long time, so don't expect to get this extra 50% attack boost anytime soon, because it's not coming. It's something for the future. But anyhow, moving on. He'll be using flame badges and scorching tomes, so another fire user that's going to be eating up all of those tomes and badges on you. And then down here in his meat and potatoes, we have his small skill Thermidor, guaranteed to use skill in the first round. Attacks a single enemy and adds a flame effect. This flame effect will decrease the enemy's 15% ultimate damage, and each move that the enemy makes while under this flame effect gives Ash a little bit of rage back. The burn damage does not restore rage, and it lasts for 3 rounds. If the opponent already has the flame debuff on them, it will deal an additional 50% damage. Really cool skill, and it's really awesome that it's guaranteed first round. His ultimate, Monsoon, I do have his weapon equipped, so it is max Monsoon. Attacks a column of enemies and debuffs them, adding the flame effect. It will refresh them to last 3 rounds. Or refresh them, sorry. If they don't have the flame effect already, it gives them the flame effect. If they already have it, it refreshes the timer on it, so it'll last another 3 rounds. The more enemies affected by flame, the higher the ultimate damage, max 30% increase. If there's only one enemy in the column, will deal an additional 30% damage, which really helps at the end of a match. You know, if it's back row fighting back row, Ash's ultimate will get that extra 30% damage if there's only one target. So that's kind of nice. And then his passive, with ease. This is just a wonderful passive. If you guys have been missing out on the you know, enemy debuff for attack, like Orochi, Leona, Mei, Orochi Shermie. This guy is where it's at because he decreases all enemies' attack. I think right now in the game he's the only one that does all enemies attack. In the future there's going to be a couple other characters that will do all enemies attack. But what we've had up till now is pretty much decrease male fighters' attack, which was really strong because a lot of fighters are male, right? But yeah, this will decrease all enemies' attack. And then moving on from the decreasing of the attack, Ash can gather the flame in his body to deal a powerful flame attack. Each attack increases 10%, max 30%. When Ash has received 40% or more of his max health and damage, or if his HP falls below 30%, he immediately recovers 20% health and dispels all debuffs on himself. It doesn't work if he's dead, and it has a maximum recovery of 3 times per battle. If Ash did not recover HP in the last round, Ash will increase his own damage by 15% this round. So that is a really great ability, because at the start of the round, when Ash really isn't taking a whole lot of damage, you'll see him getting an attack buff at the start of every round. It only lasts for 1 round, but that extra 15% damage, it really does help. And you know, he does this heal is just absolutely phenomenal. It keeps him up a lot longer than most other fighters that we've dealt with to this point, and it makes him especially good in tournaments and stuff. If he isn't being, you know, one-hit KO'd or anything like that, if he survives, or if he takes a really big chunk of damage, 40% of his life, he'll get 20% back, right? Or even if he's below 30% at any point after an attack or anything that hurts him. Yeah, any attack, ultimate or regular attack, he'll get back another 20% as well. So overall, it's a really really cool you know, skill he has. But if you notice, it's other than his small amount of healing that he can do to himself to keep himself alive a little bit longer, Ash is like pure damage. That's kind of what Ash does, and it goes with his feature, continuous explosive attacks. And I mean, the other reason why it's continuous, he's an Adder Soul, so at max level 20, every attack he makes restores 192 rage, and he also restores a little bit of rage when any fighter dies. So he's got a tiny bit of Tiger in there with him. But he can ramp up to an ultimate really quickly. If he takes a bit of damage, throws out an attack, boom, there it is. And he also gets the legendary attack enhancement, which gives him attack and health. So another fun feature of the API 15s. But you know, if you're looking at Ash and you're wondering if he's good, yes, he is very good, but he excels pretty much at one thing, and that's damage. So I mean, if you've got a ton of damage dealers on your back row, it's a really, if you have the idea to stick Ash in the front because he's healing right now, he's pretty squishy. He is a DPS. And I mean, you know, you want to make room for him on your back row, at least at this point in the game. You know, when there's better fighters that come out that do a whole lot more damage, it can be possible to move Ash to the front row if you still want to keep using him. But you know, you don't want to start him off like that right now. I feel like there's something missing off of that. I don't know why. I'm gonna check that out in a second. If I go over here, do these read differently in here? No. Oh, this is the thing. It says attack a column of enemies and debuff enemies. this is worded really weird. What it's actually saying is that this is the part I was missing. It's just the way they word it before the S-Max. And the way it's worded sounds odd to debuff enemies, but what it is actually doing is dispelling enemies. So if you have an Orochi Yashiro and Ash is about to ultimate him, it will take off his defensive buffs that he's given to himself. So he takes away any positive buffs that the enemy might have on them when he attacks with his ultimate. And he clears whatever positive buffs they're going to have on themselves. He doesn't take away the negative buffs that you've put on the enemy, but if they have any positive effects on themselves, they're gone. And so that gives him a huge advantage against a whole lot of different tanks, because a lot of tanks rely on their ultimate to get really beefy and tanky, and he's going to shred that right off of them. So, and the other thing is just his flame effect as a damage over time. It's not going to add rage. That was the problem with the original Kyo. A lot of different fighters, when you get a whole bunch of flame stacks, especially if you put a flame stack on, say, a Rugal, that Rugal is going to be ulting you every turn just from all the rage gain ticks from flame effects. But with Ash's flame, it's really nice because it doesn't give any rage to the enemies when it's ticking at the end of the round. So that's a really cool thing I like that they added into him, because it makes him a lot more versatile, because you want to get these flame effects, his flame effects, put on people, right? It increases his own damage, you're not giving them rage, and it does actually cause a pretty good amount of damage. So that's where it's at. But let's move into his gates and his 8 elements. This is his passive ability with ease. So now it's still decrease all enemies' attack. Ash can gather the flame in his body to deal a powerful flame attack. Each attack increases 15%, max 30. So that's gone up a little bit. It's the same maximum as before, but it only takes 2 times for it to get to the maximum instead of 3, because it was 10% with each flame attack. And now it changes when Ash has received 40% or more of his max HP damage, or if HP falls below 30%. Those numbers haven't changed, but this one does. He immediately recovers 25% health instead of 20% and dispels his own debuffs. And he also actually gets an extra recovery attempt down here. Max recover 4 times instead of 3 times with the regular ability. If Ash did not recover HP last round, attack will increase by 20% this round. And Ash will get a portion of the fight soul effects of fighters that die while affected by the flame effect. He doesn't even have to kill them. If they have that green flame on them when they die, he gets a portion of their fight soul effects. So, he can start building up rage really quickly after a couple of people die if they have that flame debuff on them, So, is that 20% change? Sorry, I just want to... No, the 20% stays the same. And then when we go to his small skill, guaranteed first round, attack a single enemy, adds the flame effect. All that is the same, but here it is, increase own 50% anti-control for 2 rounds. And if the opponent already has the flame effect, so this goes up a little bit. It deals an extra 10% damage if somebody's already affected by flame. But the biggest part in his Thermidor is that it increases his own 50% anti-control for 2 rounds, which is huge. You want to avoid stuns and silences and paralyzes and all that stuff. He gets a 50% anti-control, and because the skill is guaranteed in the first round, this is going to activate first round, especially if you attack first. If you've been keeping up with your priority, you know, and you got really high priority, this 50% anti-control is going to go off right away. So it is a nice little boost. I do like it. And then his S-Max Monsoon attacks a column and dispel the column buff. See, this is where they changed the wording of it. I thought this was like an actual change from his ultimate to his S-Max, but it's just they've worded it really weird back on his regular ultimate. It sounds weird, right? But this to me makes more sense. Dispel column buff. But also giving the flame effect, reset the cooldown for all enemy flame effect lasting 3 rounds. And here's where it is here. Absorb front row 20% block rate and rear row 20% crit rate. So especially in the Genesis era when everybody's blocking, you know, you're going to take 20% block away from the front row and 20% crit rate away from the back row and give them to himself. You know, especially that 20% crit rate, it's definitely needed with the Genesis captains running around, because they're reducing your crit rate by 40% right away. And so to get that, you know, bonus 20% crit rate, plus if you're taking 20% off of one of their back row fighters, they're not critting you. You know, with your own, if you're running a Genesis as well, you know, they're just not going to be able to crit through that. The more fighters affected by flame, higher the damage, still at 35%. If the target column only has 1 fighter, will deal 35% additional damage up from 30%, and it will also absorb 20% block rate and 20% crit rate from that singular fighter. So I mean, that is a really decent boost, because it takes away their defensive capabilities, it takes away some of their offensive capabilities, and he just takes it for himself, you know, which makes him a little bit tankier and a little bit more lethal, you know. He's one of the characters, I think his S-Max is definitely worth it, because it will do more damage, obviously, but at the same time, he's also gaining the ability to steal, you know, block rate and crit rate from other fighters. So I mean, you know, up to you on how much you value that, but I think right now in the current era we're in, that's a really good thing to have. But other than that, you know, that's pretty much Ash, you know. But where can you use Ash? I mean, Ash doesn't fit in every formation. You know, if you're planning on Magikai, right? Magikai also has this decrease all enemy attack debuff. So I mean, they don't stack, and do you really want to be wasting, you know, like points on a character for their ability not to work? You know, because if you think of it like an RPG builder game, you know, where you're given like so many, you know, points to build a character with, you know, this decrease all enemy attack, the skill to do that, is definitely taking away from that point pool, you know, and that's part of what makes him an API 15, is this great ability. But if you start getting all the characters that have decrease all enemy attack, it's kind of like you're wasting potential. I don't know how to explain it properly. I hope you understand what I mean. But, you know, to combine them on the same team isn't really that big of a deal, honestly. But it kind of sucks that, you know, you're going to have characters with overlapping passives. But if you're looking at him just for this passive because you want to slow down how much damage an enemy team's doing, there are other characters coming that feature this ability. Magikai being the one that will be the closest to where we're at right now. You know, and he's a bear soul, he's a tank, he's pretty hard to kill, so he definitely fills a different role on the team. you know, and it just depends on what your team needs, really. If you need a crazy damage dealer, Ash is pretty good at it, and I think he's going to be good at it for quite some time now. But you know, it will hit a point where Ash falls off a cliff. You know, it happens to every character. So I mean, to get the most value out of him, the S Max is the way to go for me. And his S Max has no conditions on it. It just happens every time, like Terry. You know, every time Terry does his ultimate, it's Wasp Power. There's no pre-existing condition on it, so it will get a lot of use. It's not just a conditional one-shot S Max or anything like that. For Ash, I think it's worth it. It'll give him a lot bigger lifespan, and especially if you do it really quick, like the sooner the better. He'll seem all that more powerful right now. You know what I mean? So, but you know, if you're running Snake Genesis, obviously he'd be a great fit with his Adder Soul. You know, he can be slotted into some Tiger teams. I mean, I'm running a Tiger team and I slotted at him, and it's because I don't want to go for Magikai. You know, that's my own personal preference and plan, and so I wanted a guy that does a lot of damage and reduces everybody's attack. And so he fits perfectly for my own personal play style, the way I'm liking the team now. So, you know, there's that. But you know, if you're running around with Bear Genesis, I don't think he would be a very good fit. You know, you've definitely got other characters that'll fill that role. Force Souls, he's not bad. I mean, if you're running a Force Souls currently, you probably need him along with Omega, and you'll need Mukai just to keep up with these Genesis a-holes. You know what I mean? Looking at you, Force Souls players, you know what I mean. But you know, so I mean, does he work for you? It'll be up to you, you know. But he's definitely working for me. And I mean, yeah, so there it is. There's Ash. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Ash, and hope I didn't bore you with my thoughts and opinions too much. And I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.